welcome to the stage again David, who is going to discuss equine welfare during exercise. And do we have a bit of a problem?
So, equine welfare during exercise. Now notice it's a question. Do we have a bit of a problem? Those who know me well, that is my students who have to put up with me for various sessions, others know that I have a particular enjoyment Testing. Okay. Those who know me reasonably well know that I have a particular interest in making puns and also using sayings in ways that engage. And I just want to let you know that I do intend during this course to keep a tight rein on my unbridled enthusiasm for the context of this horsey discussion. Of course, some might tell me to stop horsing around, and others, by the end of my talk, may think I've been flogging a dead horse. The bad news is that for 45 minutes, or thereabouts, you're saddled with me. But the good news is that after it, you can hoof it.
Dad jokes.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, what was that? Really out. Right. I'm breaking down. All right. So anyway, of course, horses have meant a huge amount to us, and for at least 4,500 years, they've been a really close part of human society, and indeed, it even goes back 6,000 years when they first started to be domesticated. So it's hardly surprising that we have a huge number of horse-related and horse-use-related sayings in our language. I've already just given you a quick background of 24 years in Australia, 21 in Scotland, and now 31 in New Zealand. But I need to give you just a little bit more information with regard to areas of my detailed research in the last 30, 35 years, which relates to pain and stress in animals and their assessment. So I've done a very large number of pain-related studies where we have been looking at the magnitude and duration of pain as assessed by various indices and its alleviation using analgesics and local anesthetics and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents. For those of you who think that's a non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, just think of aspirin. So pain treatment and reduction has been a major part of my area of interest, and the behaviours, pain-related behaviours, and their absence when animals are pain-free in their presence, and then absence when you follow a painful procedure and then give analgesic, which is effective. I've also taken an interest in brain processing of pain inputs and of nerve stimulation. And all of this in the context of whole body function, in the context of animal welfare science. So I'm coming at this topic, one as someone who's actually ridden horses, and I really like horses. They're wonderful animals. I haven't had a lot of physical contact with them for quite a few years, but I just think they're extraordinary animals. A colleague and I, in looking at equine welfare, prepared a paper. Oops, sorry, I'm walking all over the place. Prepared a paper. Well, again, you're going to get a PDF copy of this, so you don't need to worry about this paper here. Equine welfare during exercise and evaluation of breathing, breathlessness and bridles, which again is freely available, doesn't cost you anything to download it. And there are a number of papers mentioned there, and they relate to bridles and bits and so on. So, I told you, hold your horses straight from the horse's mouth, bit-free feral and domestic horses, benefits of closed mouth breathing, keeping a tight rein on things, a golden bit does not make a horse any better, and concluding comments. So we're going to cover a little bit of ground, and what I'm going to do is I will draw to your attention information you may not have, and I'll invite you to go to the sources that I've used, review the information and draw your own conclusions. An Arabic saying, I'm ready. He who speaks an unpalatable truth should have one foot in the stirrup, which means you're ready to escape. Now, unpalatable is a pun. You will see it shortly. We're going to talk about dorsal displacement of the soft palate. Never said the lost palate, for example, like the lost world. Background to the use of the bridles. Linda and I went and saw the terracotta warriors in the museum in Wellington a few weeks ago, and here are 4 horses pulling a war chariot, and just in case you're not getting the clear indication of what they've got in their mouths, there are the bits they used. So a bit of a mouthful is written. Anyone seen Roman riding? When I saw this in Budapest, it wasn't this particular photograph, there were 4 more horses here. So he was standing on 2, he had 3 then and another 4. And what he did was, there was this very big arena, and he took them around the arena under control, and just gradually increased the speed. And the second time round he was going absolutely at a flat gallop. And then he put all the reins in one hand and he took his hat off and threw it into the grandstand. He did have a very serious look on his face, I've got to say. But we will return to this photograph shortly. Okay, horses domesticated from about 6,000 years ago. They're large and powerful animals deployed for many purposes. Bitted bridles used in horses' mouths started in 2,500 BC, mainly used to control horses so they could be ridden safely. So it's ridden or driven safely. So it's control and safety, which are the common reasons people give for using bits. Today, bitted bridles are still used for control and safety. The control and safety are achieved by pressure applied to different parts of the head, but especially to the lips, interdental space, tongue, hard palate and mandible. Now, we know that horses are supreme athletes. They're just amazing, absolutely amazing animals. And they have exceptional horse versatility. And since we've got 3/4 of an hour, I'll read it. Flat racing, steeplechase, harness racing, endurance, cross-country, show jumping, not slow jumping, barrel racing, roping and polo, and many other competitive events. They're very widely used, and I did barrel racing. I was a stockman in Western New South Wales, and I had to do the 14-mile water run at regular intervals to make sure the troughs were filling during the summer and so on. And they're amazing animals to interact with. So now we've got straight from the horse's mouth evidence of bit-induced pain, indicative behaviours and bone pathology, what we're going to talk about. Okay. Bit-induced pain, or the actual threat of it, that is, horses that have experienced it and then avoid it by, in heads like this, so that after you've trained them, you actually do have a relatively loose rein, is the way the animal is controlled. The mouth parts are richly innervated with mechanical receptors that pick up mechanical touch and so on, temperature receptors, chemical receptors, and pain receptors, which have the technical name of nociceptors. The sensitive mouth parts are gum, teeth, tongue, lips, inner cheeks, roof of mouth, hard palate. So, this is just, you all know this. So we've got the incisor teeth here and the rudimentary canines, and we've got the bowels of the mouth, or the interdental space, where there are no teeth, and then we've got the molars, okay? And the bit rests in the interdental space. There's skeletal evidence of marked long-term bit-induced pain because of the damage that can be demonstrated in the mandible. After long-term, so the one behind doesn't have any evidence of that. The one in front shows mandibular spurs and erosion, tooth loss and erosion, periodontitis and empty tooth sockets. And you can imagine what that's like. Then you imagine putting metal on it. I think it's a double ouch or a triple ouch. Here we've got the mandible of a zebra. I'm assuming it's never had a bit in its mouth. And then of a pony which hasn't had a bit in its mouth. And you can see those problems are not apparent. Now, I should say, this was observed in 62% of more than 70 mandibles in the national museums in America of domesticated horses where they had their jawbone. So this is not a couple of photographs that were found and put together in order to make a point. Okay, try this. I want all of you to try this. Take a pen. Take a pen. Put it in your mouth. Okay? That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. Now, I want you to roll your bottom lip down and put it on your gum below your teeth. How much pressure can you stand? Virtually none. Okay. That is what the bit is doing to the interdental space of a horse. Okay? You've experienced it yourself now. Okay? Now, you imagine even slight pressure here is very painful. Very strong pressure must be excruciating. Okay. So, and what happens? So what we've got is the bit is usually located in the interdental space. It compresses the gum of the jawbone. That stimulates pain receptors. We've got them here, they've got them there, and strong rein tension causes marked pain. It must. There's no other alternative explanation. And the pain indices are that the mouth is slightly or widely open and persistent jaw movements, teeth grinding, chewing, holding the bit between the teeth, tongue protruding, rolling or relocated behind or above the bit to try and get it off the gum, profuse salivation, and I understand that salivation is seen to be a very positive second dresser. Head tossing and shaking, tail swishing. One of the things, I've watched literally hundreds of horses on YouTube, and I've never seen so many horse races since I started doing this on television. Linda keeps on wondering if I'm betting on them. One of the things that I saw was the start of a 3-day event. And as you who have engaged in 3-day events know you want to get off to a running start because it's a timed event. Okay. So here's this guy who's back from the starting line on his horse, with the head in the air like this, and it's going, which is absolutely indicative of pain. And the commentary was, he's raring to go. You've all heard it. Now, please, I'm not having a go at anyone. I didn't recognise this when I was riding, and we will see.
Can I buy you up there a bit, please? Or do you want to wait till the end?
Let's wait till the end.
Okay.
I see you're into horse terminology as well, woe me up here. In New Zealand, you know, they say from woe to go, instead of go to woe. Okay, now, Edward Muybridge looked at animal locomotion, horse locomotion in 1887. Okay? And this sequence of photographs, where it's not actually as obvious as you will see it is in later ones, was taken to show the gait of the horse, not what was happening with its mouth. But if you look at this one, you can see its mouth there is open. It's the same horse all the way through. You can see its mouth is open there, there, and we won't worry about the rest. But here, it is really obvious. Okay, 1887, not photographed in order to show that feature, but it's there. I don't need to comment. All right, there's still Muybridge, 1887. Then let's come up to date. These are race horses. Got his mouth slightly open. Open here. Open here. Hunter. Show jumping. These are grabbed from YouTube. And there are literally hundreds of these that you can see. So they're not highly selected in order to show open mouths. Draft horses. Horse torture. I mean, excuse me putting it that way, but anyone who did that to a horse, even if they were wanting to train it in a dressage manner, is absolutely abusing them. Dressage. Someone's also got blood in his mouth. Barrel racing. Now what you can see in each case, we've got a martingale here, so this horse can't put its head up, this one hasn't. We've got the tongue out, and we've got the mouth open. There's a horse like this. Now, what that raises is an important point which I will return to, and that is that a bit in the horse's mouth is not painful all the time. I'm not saying that. But when you put pressure on it, in order to change direction in a speed event, or in order to slow down at the end of a race, or in order to contain the horse at the beginning of the race so it's not going to gallop away and use all its energy before the end, then you are putting pressure on the bars of the mouth, or the interdental space, or on the teeth, or on the tongue, which of course is also a very sensitive organ. Then we come back to this, and while they're not very distinct, this one, this one, this one, and this one, I can't tell what that one had their mouths open. Then you will see the relevance of that shortly. Okay, so that was quite interesting, and then I thought, well, what's the control? What can we look at to see what happens if with animals that don't have bits in their mouths? So I looked at literally hundreds of feral horses being rounded up. Brumbies in Australia, Caimanas in New Zealand, Mustangs in USA, and the next one you'll see are Camargues in France. And what you will notice is that virtually all of them, not all of them, have their mouths closed. Beautiful animals. Fantastic. And here we have our own horses, as it were, with halters on. He's showing off, but he's still got his mouth closed. Here they are galloping, or at least cantering together, with bridles on. This animal's got a bit free, bitless bridle on, just a halter and just the rope around the neck. And the main point here is without a bit and these two in motion, their mouths are closed. Okay, now let's just remind ourselves of pain-related mouth and head behaviours. Slightly or widely open mouth, persistent jaw movements, teeth grinding, chewing, holding the bit between the teeth, tongue protruding, rolled or relocated behind or above the bit, profuse salivation, head tossing, shaking, tail swishing, skittish body movements. Okay. Now, we all thought this stuff was normal. This is just the way horses behaved when we rode them. So I'm not pointing the finger at anyone here. I'm just saying, with fresh eyes, I've come to a new understanding. So, when bit-free, obviously, pretty obvious, bit-induced pain-related mouth and head behaviours are absent. Well, there's no bit in there, so this is the case when the horses are standing calmly and when exercising. The mouth is invariably closed when exercising at any level. But when they're in a herd around and they're really quite good film rugbies and so on, and all sorts of situations and many others, when they're around a waterhole and so on and just doing their relaxed thing around there, yawning, vocalising, biting in competition or grooming, eating and drinking, their mouths are obviously open or opening and closing. The obvious conclusion is bit-induced pain is eliminated, and the question is, are there additional functional benefits of mouth closed, that is bitless, or as opposed to mouth open, bitted state? That's what we're going to do now. The benefits of closed mouth, that's the obligate nasal breathing of the horse, and the maximising the ease of airflow and respiratory gas exchange in the lungs. Okay. Now, when you look at horses going at maximum pace, what they physiologically achieve is absolutely astounding. A horse is an obligate nasal breather. That means it has to breathe through its nose for full respiratory efficiency. If it isn't breathing through its nose, it cannot breathe at maximum efficiency. And when you see that at maximum exercise, it breathes in and out 1,800 to 2,000 litres per minute, you can see why you must have the respiratory passages here as widely open as possible. And you can also see why anything like dorsal displacement of the soft palate, or pharyngeal collapse, or laryngeal hemiplegia and stuff like this will impede airflow. And we go into that in a little bit more detail. So, the best airflow of the upper respiratory tract needs to, for the best airflow, the upper respiratory tract must be as open as it possibly can be. Even partial obstruction impedes airflow and high athletic performance. And that's because for every 1 unit decrease in the diameter of a tube, there is a fourth power increase in the resistance to airflow. So even something that looks like quite a small impediment can have a very marked effect on how easy it is for the horse to breathe in and out. Soft palate ballooning or displacement, palatal instability, and laryngeal problems interfere with that. Now here we've got the hard palate. The soft palate is there engaged with the larynx. If the soft palate moves upward, it disengages with the larynx, and at the best it flutters and creates turbulence and impedes airflow. At worst, it actually, when the horse is breathing out, closes off the internal nostrils of the horse. When it disengages and the horse breathes in, the soft palate can actually go over the larynx and partially block it. And all this has been seen on dynamic endoscopy. So stabilising the soft palate against the negative inspiration, the pressure of inspiration. So when you breathe in, you increase the volume of the thorax, which draws air down the air passages into the lungs. Okay? And that means there's negative pressure here. If you do right and breathe in, you're fine, but there's negative pressure trying to breathe in. This requires negative pressure in the, that is stabilising the soft palate, requires negative pressure in the oral cavity, which is this bit, and the oropharynx, which is that bit, to stop it from ballooning up. Now this is achieved by swallowing and keeping the mouth closed. Now I'm going to invite you to swallow with your mouths closed and focus on what the experience is with your soft palate on your tongue at the back of your throat. You feel it? Okay. So before a horse starts exercising, it swallows. And it immobilizes the soft palate on the root of the tongue and keeps it engaged with the larynx, which means that there is no airflow through the mouth, and the maximum airflow can go through the upper respiratory tract. Okay. If bit-induced mouth opening behaviour acts to prevent the maintenance of the negative oropharyngeal pressure. So if your mouth is open, if the horse's mouth is open, it can't keep the negative pressure to hold the soft palate down on the root of the tongue. Likewise, if the tongue is rolled back, the thing about the tongue is it's one of these organs where it has a set volume. So if you shorten its length, its thickness increases. So if it rolls its tongue back, then it will tend to lift this, in addition to the impact of not being able to maintain a negative pressure in the back of the throat. Now, the mouth doesn't have to be open wide for that to happen. All you need is enough, quite a small aperture. Okay. Now we come to keeping a tight rein on things, and you can probably guess that we're going to talk about jowling. So, rein tension together with actual or threatened bit-induced pain. I mentioned that earlier, that if a horse is trained for dressage initially to have it behave in this way, it actually does this because of the pain of the bit. But once it knows that if it does this spontaneously, it's going to have less pain than if it does it spontaneously. And it doesn't seem that you're actually holding its reins very tightly. So the rein tension together with actual or threatened bit-induced pain sets the jowl angle for ridden or driven horses. The greater the rein tension, the greater the bit-induced pain. The greater the rein tension, usually the lower the jowl angle. The lower the jowl angle, the more the nasopharyngeal airflow is obstructed. So if you're like that, and you're wanting to breathe at 1,800 to 2,000 litres a minute, and you're like that, because you've compressed the nasopharynx at the back of the throat and also you squash the larynx, then airflow is impeded. What that means is that gas exchange in the depths of the lungs to get oxygen into the body and carbon dioxide out is impeded. So that obstructs airflow, and it obstructs, and the more respiratory gas exchanges in the lungs is impeded, and the greater is the exercise intolerance. Because an animal that is short of oxygen is not going to be able to run as fast as an animal that isn't. And that's why you're all sort of, those of you who are worried about dorsal displacement of the soft palate. Because the performance of the horse is lower with that, and the major cause of that is the fact that it hasn't kept its mouth closed, and you've got the soft palate doing this, which itself can impede airflow. But if at the same time you've got the animal being held back at the beginning of a race, for example, then you are reducing the jowl angle. Now, this is about the greatest extension you will see in a galloping horse with low rein tension. If we take the nasopharyngeal area, that is measured by X-ray in there, at 100% for that jowl angle, if you decrease the jowl angle to 87 degrees, then you have taken 10% off the nasopharyngeal area. If you decrease it to 75 degrees, you've taken 45% of the nasopharyngeal area off. If you decrease it to 33 degrees, which is not unusual in dressage, you've taken 70% off the nasopharyngeal area, and you have reduced the laryngeal aperture by about 8%. All of this has been quantified. And then I just sort of go through that. You don't need to do what I've just done. Okay. So, a golden bit does not make the horse any better. Problems and current attempted solutions and an alternative. Some behaviour problems and attempted solutions, so some bit-induced pain-associated mouth and head behaviours have been linked to poor athletic performance, and there have been attempts to control this by isolating particular features that have led to that poor athletic performance. Mouth slightly or widely open, the use of tightly applied nose bands. Tongue protruding, rolled or relocated behind or above the bit, use of tongue ties, jointed bits over overlying flanges of the bits. Head tossing or shaking, elevated head carriage. Various sorts of martingales hold the head down. Problems with teeth grinding, chewing, holding the bit between the teeth. They've been attempted in various ways, but not necessarily directed factors related to the bit. Once it's in there, there's nothing you can do about it. It's going to be in there. Now again, please understand, I'm not saying that horses experience excruciating agony throughout every ride. That isn't what I'm saying. I'm saying when in parts of the ride where you put pressure on the bit, they will experience increasing amounts of pain depending on how high that pressure is. Now this is an interesting case, and anyone who's interested, Belt Express, which is a horse magazine published in Germany and will be publishing in English, a commentary on this horse, which is a Mendelssohn, who was is an elite racehorse in the USA, And this is a photograph of it having a gentle workout the day before a race. And what can you see? We can see a great deal of saliva. It's got a tongue tie, it has a nose band that will draw a bit. Up here, it's got a martingale. It's being held so the jowl angle is low, and there is a reasonable amount of rein tensions, as you can see. So, at the bottom there's the question. Could it be that the solution is as simple as going bit-free? No, it's not going to be simple going bit-free, okay? I understand that. But it's interesting to speculate and think about that. Now here, apparently there are some horse races in Germany where it's not necessary to have a bit. And this is a horse thoroughbred in a race in Germany where it's shown here racing bit free. The horse's lips are sealed, there's no drooling, and the head and neck are comfortably extended, and the jockey is riding with a loose rein. Now I know, hands and heels, when they're really going for it, the rein is loose and things might be rather less of a problem. So let's just think about this. Things in plain sight are sometimes invisible. And I was as blind to this as anyone else in this room who hadn't seen this. Having a bit or bits in the mouth is aversive. Most horses wearing bits show clear behavioural evidence of aversion. The particular behaviours indicate pain experience that is often, not always, severe. Commonly seen when reins are used to control speed, agility and direction in timed events and in slow speed events focused on deportment, comportment and demeanour. Bit-free, feral and other horses exhibit no such behavioural evidence. This evidence was filmed independently of this message. Okay? They weren't filming it in order to show mouth behaviours or bits or anything like that. I captured it from YouTube, and I invite you to go to YouTube and look at it yourself and see that I haven't just selected a very small number of things out of thousands and thousands and thousands where this wasn't the reverse. In reality, this is what you will see commonly under these circumstances, when reins are used to control speed, agility and direction in timed events, and when you're interested in slow speed appearance and so on. If you doubt it, have a look yourself and draw your own conclusions. Okay? So I'm handing it over to you, YouTube, without expense. You can look at horses to your heart's content. Note that supportive skeletal evidence is also available. Familiarity breeds invisibility. This is apparent in dairy. It was apparent in dairy farms. Farmers generally grossly underestimated the proportion of their herds that were lame. They were mainly focusing on those that could hardly walk. They estimated them at 5 to 10%. But when they were educated about less severe forms of lameness, they came up with 50 to 70% of their herds were lame in those studies. And their comment, I thought cows walked that way. Okay, so we're not blaming anyone. I thought horses just behaved that way. The same likely applies to unrecognised bit-associated pain-related behaviours. From the time we first learnt to ride, they were always there. Only comparatively recently has the significance been drawn to people's attention. This is where... So, inaction in the face of invisibility is understandable. Inaction following such recognition is unacceptable. recognition of such problems brings with it a responsibility to act. So what should we do?